Hello, my name is Hayden Wayne. This is the Healing Channel, episode 24. I will be reading chapter 4 from Notre Dame is Burning, the inner reaches of mind within the outer reaches of multidimensional consciousness, and the choices we make. Perigee, the lowest point of orbit. Quote, "A house divided against itself cannot stand," unquote. Abraham Lincoln. It's all happening on the streets. Everyone's got a story. I don't know who to believe anymore. Engineered bodies, brains, and minds. Biometric information turned Antidote. Be a poet. Write music. Paint. Sit and think. Retain your humanity. Explore humility. The randomness of our emotions can only be projected. AI can only guess through linear outcome, while we can irrationally change our mind in a heartbeat. Most of all, stay conscious of your feelings, regardless how fleeting. Quote, "We are the cause of all coming evil," unquote. Carl Jung. If you don't think this is post-Weimar Republic 1933 and the Reichstag has been burned down, then tell me this following quote to Breitbart News, March 11, 2019, isn't Hitler rallying the brown shirts. Quote, "I can tell you I have the support of the police. I have the support of the military, support of the bikers for Trump. I have the tough people, but they don't play it tough until they go to a certain point. Then it would be very bad, unquote. Donald Trump. And the alt-left has so derailed the Democratic Party, who abandoned the working class in the late 1970s, are and will continue to shoot themselves in the foot, will lose the presidency in 2020, setting the seeds of their own extinction like the Whig Party before them. I tend to think those of us who shout the loudest are the antithesis of what we purport ourselves to be. Twitter, the ability to be caustically miserable and show your ignorance. Quote, "If you tell a lie big enough and repeat it often enough, people will eventually come to believe it. It thus becomes vitally important for the state to use all its powers to repress dissent, for the truth is the mortal enemy of the lie, and thus by extension the truth is the enemy of the state." Unquote. Joseph Goebbels, propaganda minister of the Nazi Party, who, at the conclusion of the war and the inevitable defeat of the Third Reich, murdered his 6 children and committed suicide with his wife. The forces of evil are not driven by a ruthless totalitarian, but emerge from the unwillingness of the masses to not intercede at the very beginnings of moral depravity. In essence, the foundation of evil is built upon mediocrity and playing it safe, not countering falsehoods and a smug indifference to the few cells of toxicity that inevitably lead to total sepsis of the organism. By then, it's too late, and the depravity will continue until it dies from under its own weight. By then, so much will be lost that at best a subpar culture will remain without the tools that it once had to evolve. All intelligentsia will have been exterminated. All individuals with leadership quality will have been expunged. In essence, a vacuum will remain out of the ashes from the allowance to first let the lie and the leader who lied to take power. Society breaks down because of its inevitable devolved process of growing immorality and self-importance. To claim a voice without meriting the right to have one. It's all about education and perspective, or, as is now demonstrated, the lack of. Consciously taking away the meaning of words until the truth no longer exists. The problem is, we, the people, have just enough so to be afraid of losing what we have. When we finally realize we have nothing, it will be too late to storm the ramparts. Quote, John Wayne isn't here anymore. The fun is gone, unquote. Czech painter Anthony Streets. Diplomacy is being conscious of only the positive things to say when asked to give a critique, as opposed to flatly destroying an individual's ego, telling everything that is wrong. There has to be in play the use of soft hands when fielding an opportunity to help make an individual or his/her respective work better. Faith-based, hanging on to every word from their orange messiah as gospel. A dark comic genius setting himself on fire, seducing the media from day one, distracting as the mischief is in full press, packing the federal courts for life with like-minded right-wing arch conservatives, maintaining the exact substandard to perpetuate lies, dismantling social programs, erasing humility, chloroforming humanity, subjugating women not to have control over their own reproductive rights, alienating allies, embracing tyrants. For us to be appalled by the present immigration policy, separating children from parents who have illegally entered the country. Where is the action? Where is the protest? Why are the streets not full with indignation, placards, shouting, and marching feet, disavowing any approval, any connection to this orange menace and pandering sycophants? This is an overt human rights violation. Not rising up against it only proves our continuing hypocrisy, our history's continuing hatred. We slaughtered the indigenous of the New World and defiled the pristine land. Through our self-righteous piety for God, glory, and gold, millions died. We slaughtered our American indigenous, stole their land, and then the concentration camps of reservations, separating their children from their parents, putting them into orphanages, taking their language away, taking their culture away, all under the auspices of Christianity, punishing these children harshly if they didn't abandon who they were. And African slaves brought to the Americas from 1525 to 1866, affecting 12.5 million, where 1.8 million died in transit. 388,000 brought to the United States. King Cotton ruled the day. Capitalism at its best demonic indifference rationalized leading to the Civil War, rationalized pro and con, killing 700 plus thousand of ourselves. And then, in spite of the January 1, 1863 Emancipation Proclamation by Lincoln, slavery continued. Jim Crow, peonage which affected 800,000 lives in the South for 80 years, finally ending December 12, 1941 by Roosevelt. But segregation continued overtly in the South, covertly in the North. All the lynchings of African Americans, 4,412 different southern states from 1877 through 1950. All the photo ops by those who relished the event, making sure their face was clearly documented. Men, women, and children posing in their Christian righteousness, their specific communal piety. And then, concentration camps for our own Japanese citizens during World War II under Roosevelt. And now, slavery, regardless of race or sexual orientation, still exists. Too many still not given an even playing field. Opportunity, not a handout, but an environment so to self-motivate, an environment demonstrating the tools so to evolve, so to contribute to the greater good. This is a world of the deaf and blind whose only interest is its own reflection, believing in one geopolitical God, the only way towards salvation, indifferent to truth and science, self-involved demagoguery, politically corrected beyond the enlightened of merit, relegated into numerical quotas of appearance and sexual proclivity. This fake news movement, beyond rendering us to not know what to believe, exhausting us into such extreme pacifism, succumbing to the special interests and financial control, total imperial power, solely predicated upon greed, hiding behind patriotism, perverting our most elevated utopian legal document, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. An intellectual exercise created by the most incongruous of men, paring it down at every opportunity, through the courts, through bought legislation. We did it. Unleashed the corporate banking oligarchy of military theocracy. Constant war, constant surveillance, constant suppression, constant antagonism towards the unity of dignity, blurring what is most human when fighting for our rights, with every psychotic nihilist anarchist who only wants martyrdom. Now, stealth is the ultimate freedom. Social media has opened the floodgates of chaos. Opinions like assholes. Everyone's got one. And AI is listening, documenting every transaction, every idea, every interest, every opinion, every titillation, surmising our motivations and outcome. America is dying. She is seriously towards terminally ill, poisoned by these very ununited states of united hatred and special interests. How can we possibly be moved by children separated from their parents when it is we we who have separated ourselves from the greatest utopian legal promise ever created. If America is allowed to perish through the wanton greed of the corporate United States, the lights will go out around the world. Material-driven fascism will be the striving impetus, whether from the boardroom or the individual. Soulless, reptilian lust, impulse-driven, predatorily cannibalistic nihilism. Enough! Humanist Party Platform. Recognize healthcare, education, and infrastructure as unalienable rights for all Americans. End Citizens United. End the Federal Reserve and revert to hard currency-backed treasury notes. Eliminate gerrymandering. The United States' greatest strength is its size and disparateness. It is also its Achilles heel. Thus, compromise to satisfy all its citizens renders itself unable to get anything passed as legislation. One way to allow domestic policy to be more easily executed is to create an amendment to establish 8 super governors within the executive branch of government, consolidating North and South, Eastern, Central, Mountain, and Pacific states to better manage their domestic ideologies. Eradicate the Electoral College. Ensure one citizen, one vote. Create a conservation corps, somewhat like Roosevelt had done during the Depression, with mandatory service requirement of every American young man and woman, 18 to 20, to serve in a non-military service for 2 years, while earning an associate degree in education, which can be matriculated towards a Bachelor of Science degree or trade school. Create an amendment ending the influence of money in politics. No commercials to be bought. Candidates for Congress require 100,000 signatures. Senate, 1 million. President, 10 million, which will then allow them to be part of a debate on town halls, presented on commercial television. Because these broadcast facilities need FCC license to broadcast from the government, in order to gain such a license, they must supply specific prime-time slots during an election year for free. Workers are entitled to a portion of profits from the business they work for above their established salary, even if it represents a fraction of 1%. Acronym for President of the United States, First Lady of the United States, and Supreme Court of the United States. POTUS, FLOTUS, and SCOTUS reveled in their importance, standing at the precipice, coughing out fireflies. They mused, how to make America great again. Looking into their own reflection, they didn't see the world around them. For that matter, they didn't see themselves. "We must be saved from immigration," POTUS demanded of SCOTUS. FLOTUS said nothing, herself from a foreign shore. "We must build a wall," POTUS exclaimed. "But your hatred has already separated us." "It's not about us. It's about me." SCOTUS mused about the precedent. POTUS mused about the president. FLOTUS mused about her designer jacket. "I don't care, do you?" The winds of change were blowing, messing up FLOTUS's hair, but specifically POTUS's, proving he really had none. "Fake news!" he shouted at the gathering storm. SCOTUS marveled at the orange sunset, then realized it was only mid-afternoon and the president windswept. Regaining his composure, he reflected again on precedent. "What about the Constitution?" I'm in great shape," snarled POTUS. "This is a witch hunt." "Witch hunt, darling?" FLOTUS asked. "Freedom of choice?" "Immigrants," SCOTUS confided. "No, witch hunt," barked POTUS. "What hunt?" asked FLOTUS. "Health care for all? Tax cuts for the wealthy?" "No, witch hunt," protested POTUS. "I don't know, you tell me," demanded SCOTUS. FLOTUS was confused. "Separating children from their parents?" "It's going to be the best thing ever," POTUS assured them. "Make America great again." The winds blew harder. POTUS's hair rose like a stiff-armed salute. "Everyone should have a gun to protect themselves." "Protect them from what?" FLOTUS asked. "People with guns," POTUS replied. "It's in the Constitution," SCOTUS assured. "But what about the children? You must have an open mind." "No!" shouted POTUS. "It will stay closed until I get my wall." His hair saluted again. POTUS waved and thumbed up to his admiring reflection. He was loved. That's all that mattered. No investigation could change this truth. Undeterred in his orange glory, as the sun set on the world. Trump may find himself in the position of supplying 4 Supreme Court justices to the court during his 8 years in office. Then he, with the help of his court, will nullify the amendment for term limits and stay for life. Personally, with all this talk about Trump meeting with North Korea's Kim Jong-un, I think there should be an international event where the two of them mud wrestle in sumo outfits, refereed by porn star Stormy Daniels, who Trump had an alleged affair. Since the Supreme Court has recognized Citizens United, where corporations have the same footing as individual citizens when it comes to campaign contributions, it seems corporations, because of equal footing, have rendered themselves equal to the same tax obligations individual citizens have, and thus should not be able to hide behind loopholes and deductions they've used for decades to avoid paying taxes and now pay their fair share. American sickness. The United States has more than half of the commercialized child porn websites of the entire world. In 2010, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children received 213,000 plus tips. In 2017, there were over 10 million. Are we that over, so lost in ourselves, looking for answers on the back shelves? Don't know how to question, don't know how to lie, don't know to be truthful as hard as we try. So many distractions, the need to plug in wireless, weightless, while thriving on the spin. Every 2 seconds, someone is displaced from his, her